Welcome to Rhythms That Restore. I'm your friend Cherisse that's ready to journey beside you. Let's learn rhythms that can restore our minds, hearts, bodies, and spirits, and allow us to walk confidently in who God has called us to be. Are you ready? Pull up a chair. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to April. Ooh, we are here in April. I'm so excited to be here, especially kicking off a brand new month, talking about rest and simplicity. I was just sharing with my guest, Melanie, who's here. I said, the Lord's really had me in this season of subtraction and really learning to create space for him. And then I said, and that's exactly why you're here, Melanie. Because in order to rest, I have to have space, right? We have to create that margin. We have to make space for the Lord to move in our life. And so it is by no accident that I had you scheduled today to come in. And I am the number one person that needs this message the most. I told Melanie I have 6 pages of questions that I'm excited to dive into. So if you are pressing play or this is your first time on the podcast, welcome. Our podcast really exists to help women and men to be able to learn to rest in the Lord, to learn these different rhythms that we can walk in with him, that we can draw near to him, that we can spend time in his word, and that always promises to restore our mind and our body and our soul anytime, right? Yeah. That we are with him. And so, if anyone else is weary from the pace of life, you're in the right place today, right? Yes. So today we're going to be diving into a topic that many of us, me specifically, wrestle with most, and that's rest. And why is it so hard for us to slow down? Why do we resist the very thing that our souls crave the most? Right? Yeah. And what does true biblical rest even look like? Because I think that we hear that, and like even just hearing the word rest, yes, our souls are like, we need this so much. But I think that there can be a disconnect between rest and I say this, that little voice in my head will say, are you resting or are you being lazy, Cherisse? Oh no. And so I think that there are a lot of things that are not true that go on in our head when it comes to this topic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's why I was excited to have you here today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here today.
You're welcome. So let me tell you guys a little bit about Melanie Redd, our guest, and have her help us unpack this. So Melanie Redd is an author and a speaker and a writer of this incredible book, which is the reason why I asked her to be here. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, I'm holding it up. It's called Just Rest, a 90-day devotional journey. And you guys, it's so perfect that it's the beginning of April. And so if you're like, Cherisse, yes, I am in this season, you can start today. You can start today in all of April, all of May, all of June. Right? How exciting, 90 days of really being able to learn how to rest in the Lord. And so, we can kick it off. And I'm going to put your link to your Amazon store in there so they can click and get it. Yeah. Sure. And we'll give one away too. Yes. But also let me read your bio, because as I was doing some research, the bio, I learned that Melanie, so I know Melanie through my friend Sue Parker, which I'm so grateful that she connected us. And we had breakfast together a few years ago, and you gifted me this book. And then today I learned that you have written 9 other books. And as I was writing them down, which I'm going to share them with everyone, I thought, oh my goodness, add to cart. Yes, please. Yes, please. So I can't wait to share them with everyone. But Melanie is a best-selling author of 9 books, a blogger, a speaker, and a podcaster. Her newest book, Just Rest, is a devotional journey, which we share with you guys that everyone can get on Amazon. But for the past 34 years, you've been married to Randy and serving alongside him in full-time ministry. Additionally, she is the mom to 2 awesome young adults, Riley and Emily, and 1 Australian Shepherd and 1 mini Aussie. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I think I have seen
a lot of fur in
Instagram. Yes. And you guys, of course, you can follow Melanie on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter, and on Amazon too. So but Melanie, the 9 books, can I share these?
Sure.
Okay. Because the titles are beautiful. So you guys, when you're on Melanie's Amazon store. She has written Live in Light, 5-minute devotional for teen girls, a nighttime devotional also for teen girls.
Yeah, it's a journal and a devotional
that goes with it.
Yeah, that kind of goes with it. So
I love that.
Yeah.
You also wrote All Things Are Possible, How to Win Your Child's Heart for Life, Stepping Closer to the Savior, Help, I Need Some Friends,
Yes.
which I love the title of that.
Yeah.
Well, you can tell us more about them. And then Ordinary Women, Extraordinary God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Incredible.
Thank you.
I actually have had some parents reach out and ask me, what are some devotionals for teens?
Yeah.
And so now I'm so glad to know this. I lead some of the 7th grade girls that my son goes to school with. We do a Bible study every week.
That's cool.
And it's been really neat.
Yeah.
Really fun to walk with him.
Yeah, that one is a lot of fun. In fact, that one is the bestseller. That's the one that seems like so many. In fact, I get notes from girls on Instagram. It's kind of funny. And they'll say, I'm 13 and I'm reading your devotional. And so it's been really fun. And people sometimes use those as family devotions, but they're short and sweet and they're geared toward issues that face teen girls. So those are some fun devotionals.
Yeah, I love they're or for women.
Yes.
Something.
Yes. I wrote 4 in 3 years. I won't do that again, but it kind of became a thing. And so,
And really you wrote because women were asking you for it, right?
Yeah. And it's kind of fun because people say, how do you get started? I used to write for Lifeway. I used to write the little books that the seniors use, the senior adults use in their Sunday school classes or Bible study classes. Okay. And they were these little, they call them quarterlies. Every quarter they get a new one and they all read the same thing for Sundays. And I used to help write those. My background's education.
Really?
And so that kind of led to a book. And the first book was Stepping Closer to the Savior. And I wrote that with Lifeway. And so it was kind of cool. It was just a how do you grow as a Christian book. It was kind of my starter. And I was actually talking to women all the time about how to pray and how to read the Bible and study the Bible and do things in a real simple format. And my husband said, put it in a book. And so that's where that started. And it just kind of grew from there. But the cool thing, the devotions, I was just posting little devotions on Instagram. And I got an email. This was before COVID. This was right back before COVID. But somebody reached out and said, can we do a Zoom call? We want you to write a devotional like your Instagram devotions. And so this company in California sat down with me over Zoom. I really thought they were kidding, and they weren't. And that began the journey. And they published 3 devotions with me in 3 years. And so isn't that amazing? And 2 were for the girls and 1 was for women. And so it's kind of cool. And then another company, actually not far from here in Nesbitt, Mississippi, called Endgame Press, had seen one of the others. And so we did Just Rest with them. Isn't that cool? So, but none of it was planned. None of it was orchestrated. God just kind of opened those doors. And it's really fun to see and to talk to people that have used some of the devotions and books. Yeah.
It makes me think of this quote we learned last year that when we just take what's in our hand, the Lord uses it.
Yeah.
And for all of us, like that, you were just simply saying, how can I steward what I've been given? How can I encourage women exactly where I am? And you were using Instagram and social media as a way to encourage women.
Yeah. Often we just do. There's a quote. I forget which president. I want to say Roosevelt, but he used to say, do what you can where you are with what you have. And I love that because I really feel like God just finds us while we're being faithful and while we're doing what we're supposed to be doing or what we feel called to do. And then he just blesses us. And those are some of the sweetest moments when you know you didn't force it or control it or contrive it. You just showed up and God did it. It's really sweet.
And what if we all walked in that every day?
Like
if I'm just being faithful with what I have.
Yeah. It's amazing how that works. He's just able to do what he wants to do. Yeah. Submission and surrender are great things. Yeah.
They really are.
They're hard, but they're big
things.
They are. Yes.
That's incredible.
Isn't that cool?
Yes.
So people I ask, and I'm like, I never set out to write 9 books, but God just kept opening the doors. And I've also done some ghostwriting for some different pastors. And so that's where you take, like one in particular, I took sermons and helped put those into book format. And so that was really cool. And so it's neat to be able to see, what God does when we're just say whatever, when we just say, I'll do it. My yes is on the table. Yeah.
Yeah. I keep hearing that too, like as a theme where just saying, here I am.
Yeah.
Here I am, Lord.
Yeah. And it's really fun. I think sometimes God just blows us away with his sweetness and his goodness when we when we trust him. And it's just getting to that place where we do trust him, isn't it?
Yes. Now, was your background even in writing before you started writing?
I love to write as a child. This is kind of fun. People ask, it's kind of funny, the stories. I love creative writing. Okay. And we used to do the cursive writing. I like that too. Ooh. That was back when you actually used a pen or pencil. But I love the creative writing. And when I was in elementary school, I lived in a neighborhood with all boys. And I made the boy, I was older than a lot of them, but we had a magazine that we created together. And we wrote stories and did pictures and sold it to our parents. And that was kind of my first book. So I wish I could find some of those. Who knows? But I did love it. I always loved, give me an essay test over those. Don't know A, B, C, D. I want to write about it. So I guess I always knew. And a friend of mine was writing for Lifeway. We were young moms, and I was staying home at the time. And she said, hey, I'm writing some articles and some things for Lifeway. You want to get in on it? And so I started doing some articles. And I think my first article, they paid me $300 to do a magazine article. And I thought I had arrived. Yeah. And then they began to give me bigger projects. And so it kind of builds your confidence when you begin to see your work in print. But there's something about the written word. Yeah. You don't have to be there. Anybody can pick it up. Like all the books are in digital format too, but there's something about social media posts. They just go out and God can use them any way he wants to. Yeah.
That's so neat.
Cool?
And isn't it so cool to see when you look back, this was a passion that you had as a kid and you loved it, not even thinking of it as a career or how can the Lord use it. And then going off and, doing some like I went to school for teaching because I loved my teacher, my first grade teacher. I thought she made such an impact on my life, never knowing how the Lord can use, you can teach in so many different forms. And that's really what you're also getting to do, to teach and write. Yeah. And and
I have that teaching background too. I went to school for that, but it's so amazing how God can use your training to go in a different direction. And so I see that. It is. And to be able to teach women and teach in the church and teach has been a gift and a blessing. So I love how he prepares us because I know how to put a lesson together when you go through education training.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. And how to hold attention. And so it is fun to watch God. I love how he just molds things together and we don't have to figure all that out. There's a John Piper quote that I was thinking about this morning. He said, God is always doing 10,000 things in our lives behind the scenes, and we maybe see 3 of them. And we don't see most of what he's doing. But then we get there and we think, wow, he must have been planning this for months. I'll give you a great example. This weekend, I drove down to Georgia, my husband and I did, for a women's event at a church. And the lady had found me on social media over a couple of years ago. And I remember she asked me to pray. She shared this publicly, so it's not anything I shouldn't share. Her son was going through something hard and she asked me to pray for her. And we direct messaged each other on Instagram. That's all it was. And she started liking my post. Well, she invited me to come be the speaker to kick off this ministry that they are doing in their church. And it was like we were old friends. And I love how God just orchestrate. That was several years that got us to the moment on Saturday. And you just think none of that just happened by chance. That was God's handiwork moving behind the scenes to draw us to that moment. And I love how he does that. He's just very able to orchestrate the parts and the pieces.
Right. All we have to do is show up, put our yes on the table and just see what he does.
Yeah. And let him. Yeah. Right. There's a verse in Psalm 37:7 that I love, but it challenges me. It says, be still in the presence of the Lord and wait patiently for him to act. And it seems like when I get still, since we're talking about rest, and I get quiet and I get out of the way, God is able just to do amazing things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really, you could break apart that whole verse. Yeah. Right. Because first, being still, as we're talking about resting, is so hard.
Yeah.
And then wait patient
for him to act.
Yes. Right. Not us.
For not me to act.
Not
us. For him to act.
Right. Because it's like, okay, I'm still, and now I'll go do what I need to do. Yeah. No, that's not at all what he's asking us.
Yeah. We want to help him all the time. But it's always so sweet when I don't get in his way. I do think sometimes we slow him down or get in the way and mess things up.
I do.
I do.
I'm the queen of, are you sure? Are you sure? I'm here.
I'll go ahead and be here.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and just do it because I'm sure it needs to be done quicker. Oh, yeah. Maybe I should write that on a billboard in my office.
I need a sign in here.
Yes.
Up. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So why do you think, why do we wrestle with this? Why is this so difficult for us to learn to be still and to wait on the Lord and to rest in what he offers us?
No, that's such a good question. And I laugh about it. But I think for all women, we want to be in control. We like to determine it, plan it, tell it. I mean, most women that I know, and men may be the same, but I can speak for us as girls.
Yeah.
I want to help, and I want to be involved in the planning and the orchestrating. And that to me may be the hardest part is sometimes it's like God says, just be still, just rest. I was thinking of the verse in Psalm 23 today where it says he leads me beside still waters and restores my soul. It is hard for us. I did this whole talk I did Saturday was how to come apart so you won't come apart. And it's based on an old Adrian Rogers quote. He said, you have to come apart or you will come apart. But I think it's just really hard for us, especially as Southern, busy, educated women. We want to go.
Yes. Yes.
Get up and go. Somehow we feel, I don't know, maybe it's our grandmother or great grandmother's voices in our heads saying, you got it. That's not, you're being lazy, or you need to get up and do something. Yeah. I mean, I was raised in that environment, and I think a lot of girls were. And so maybe you're right. We think we're being lazy if we take 30 minutes to rest. Right. To do something that restores our soul.
I can always hear, whether it was an old boss or my mother, I'm sure it was, saying, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean.
See, they're in there. Those voices, we don't even know who some of the voices are. This voice, but it's in there. Yes. Yeah, almost like busyness is next to godliness. It's like, I've got to keep busy and keep doing. And what'd you do today? We ask each other that. And I do think service and in the Christian life, sometimes we equate all that, and maybe that's not so good. Yeah.
I love what you said about we have to come apart in order,
or we will come apart.
We will come apart.
Yeah.
And I think that many times as women, we for sure don't give each other the grace to come apart.
Yeah.
We think we have to have it all together. We have to be perfect. And that's just not reality.
Yeah.
And so share a little bit more about that.
Well, I think my message has been, it's interesting because when I started this project, now looking back, actually we started it 5 years ago. Isn't that crazy? The editor came to me, her name is Vicki, and we're good friends. And she said, I want you to do a book, a devotional, kind of like the one I did for the teen girls. She said, but I want it to be for women in their 20s. And I always say, and young at heart, because a lot of women that are not in their 20s have read the devotional.
Yes.
She said, there's so much anxiety and fear. And this was during COVID. We actually went to a bookstore and ordered coffee because at the time you had to wear a mask unless you were eating or drinking. And so we took our time. We drank the longest cup of coffee. And so
we're like, have a drink.
But the stress level was huge in those moments. And I can remember walking and praying about, what am I going to write for 90 days? Don't be afraid. Don't worry. There's a lot of those verses, but I didn't want it to be the negative side. Instead, what I did is I went through, and it's especially based on the Old Testament, and I found names of God that gave us hope in the middle of our anxiety and struggles and depression and fears. And there are so many names of God. And I just began to study the Old Testament names of God. I mean, there's a ton of names in the New Testament too, but it was really cool because it was like, for example, he's the God who sees us. And Hagar's story where she's struggling, I see the God who sees me. And he's the God who hears me. He's the God that bends down to listen when I pray. He's the God. And so the whole devotional, and I just began to study rest. I thought, God meets every need. And there's a name of God that meets every fear and every worry and every need. And so it took about a year for that particular devotion. They didn't all take that long. But I began to just kind of get this message of rest that I started sharing. I think I was on about 30 podcasts that summer talking about rest. And so it became a thing. It just, and there was one in particular, this was the funniest one. The lady asked me the same question for an hour. Well, what else can we do to rest? And so I ended up really coming up with some good lists.
Yes, tell us about, because you have a list.
Have a list.
Yeah.
And I can get you the link. I think it's called 101 Ways to Add More Rest to Your Life. And that came from that day that lady kept asking me. I was looking around the room going, well, get more rest. But I realized in studying and looking at what the Bible talks about and looking at the whole issue of anxiety and rest, that rest is a cure. It helps with anxiety. Rest rest and good rest for your soul, for your body, absolutely affects your emotions and everything else. And so it's amazing how it all works together. And it just took a little while for me to catch on. I don't know.
Me too.
But it's been a fun journey to look at practical ways that we can add more rest to our lives. And so I've spent the last 5 years thinking about that. And I will have to say I have added a lot more rest to my life. And I am a calmer, less stressed out person than I was 5 years ago. And I think that's the gift when you start realizing that God created us. You know, Jesus says, come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest. And that's really the goal, is to have that peace and that calm and that quiet and that stillness. Yeah.
Absolutely. And 5 years later, you would think, oh, well, we figured it out. We are even deeper in that hole than we were in 2020.
Yeah. It's like they just brought it out. It's like it just magnified the stress level in people's lives. I think. Yeah.
Right. And during that time, we were frustrated that we couldn't go out and do all the things. Yeah. And so many of us did find some beautiful rhythms that we love, like bike riding and taking walks. And, we were frustrated we couldn't leave, yet we all were kind of like, this is interesting. Yeah. But then when everything opened up, that pace of life just slowly
kind of went back to it.
Yes, we have crept back in. And 5 years later, we all kind of look back and go, wow, there were some beautiful things, but I don't have time for it now.
Yeah. Who has time for a walk and a bike ride?
Yes. And so I do think that the Lord has given us so many beautiful rhythms that he put in place in his word that invite us to rest in him. Yeah. But we have to be in his word to know these beautiful invitations that he has awaiting us. Right.
Yeah. And I think we just have to give ourselves permission. Yeah. It's okay to rest. It's okay to get more sleep at night. It's okay to not push so hard. And you and I were talking about before we started the podcast that when is enough? And what are we striving so much for? And why are we pushing ourselves so hard? So, it's good to think about it again.
It is good to think about
the topic.
Yes. And to ask ourselves why.
Yeah.
Like for what? Yeah. Like what is that motivation for needing to continue to push ourselves to the capacity where we just don't have anything left to give others?
Yeah. Yeah. I will tell you something we've done. And we started this when I was doing the research. It was kind of fun because I looked up so much on rest and how do you find rest and how do you find peace and how do you, there's so many ideas out there. But I will tell you one that's helped us that's real practical is we just get more sleep at night. And I had read, this was interesting, I had read a story about Tom Brady, who's considered to be one of the greatest quarterback football players. And he made it I think he was 46 when he retired. And still in great shape and great health, but just ready to move on. And I read, I guess it was an interview, or I saw an interview that he did, and they asked him about what he did to stay healthy, because he was the oldest living quarterback that had played the longest. And he said, this blew me away. He said he got 9.5 hours of sleep a night. And they were like, how do you do that?
Right.
He went to bed at 8:30. I guess got up at 6. Is that about right?
Yeah.
And he said, I just made it a priority it was during the season. I don't know if he did that in the off season, but he said, I needed the rest. And we started going to bed earlier. We realized, well, I need a little more rest.
That's right.
Yeah. And so we just turn the TV off and go to bed a little early. And I'll tell you, I feel better when I go to bed at night. There's no reason to add one more Netflix episode or stay up a little later. It's amazing. An extra 30 minutes or an extra hour of sleep, what it does for you.
It does.
And that's what I'm talking about, finding that margin and that rest for your soul.
Yes. Yeah. Right. And just asking ourselves, how can I create space for that rest? Yeah. Because we're all making choices of what is going to get our time. Yeah. And many times we're sucked into something that isn't actually going to produce any rest. No. It's going to create more strife and more anxiety, but we choose it. Yeah. Or maybe sometimes it sucks us in and chooses us. Yeah. And so, but I think recognizing what is getting my time. Yeah. And is it restoring my soul or is it depleting it? Yeah. And really kind of making that choice, like no more. Yeah. No more of that.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing. Yeah. Well, and it's even true in our relationships. I tell women all the time what relationships are adding to your life and what relationships are sort of depleting and sucking the life out of you? And how can you add more of the life givers and spend a little less time with those that just exhaust you? And it's a good question to ask.
It is.
And so some of the rest comes from just making good decisions and putting in place some boundaries and some margins and saying, this is better if I do this. This is better for our family if we do this. This is best. We'll feel better if we do this.
Right. Yes. And those can be hard questions.
They can be hard questions.
And many times we don't want to look at that. We don't want to look at things that exhaust us.
Yeah.
You know, it might think, oh, it's easier to just keep doing that.
Yeah.
But
we do what we do because we're used to doing it.
Right.
Right. Yeah. But I found that just things like putting your phone down, putting it down at a certain time of night, having times of the day where you're on do not disturb.
Yes.
Turning off those notifications. It's amazing. We're doing it right now. And my watch is not buzzed in a little while. And you know what it does? It quiets you. It calms you. You know, I tell people, turn the news off. Don't be getting the news alert. My parents and a lot of seniors watch the news all day long. It's like, no one needs the news 24/7.
No.
You know, and emails wear us out. Have a certain time you do emails. I think there are a lot of things we can do to declutter and calm our lives.
Right. We were talking about it earlier. Simplify.
Yeah.
Really, you know, if we could have a theme for this month of April, simplify and rest.
Yeah.
I think it can be such a gift. My phone has been acting up this week and I don't know what it did, but I can't get emails on my phone.
Yeah.
And then I was going to stress about it and figure it out. And I thought, you know what? No, it's fine. I will check my email when I can come in my office. And I know that's very old school, but it's allowed me to have a little bit more presence wherever I am.
I have a friend that only checks emails twice a week, and she checks them thoroughly on those 2 days, but the rest of the week, that's it. And on the weekends, she puts that away notice, and she said it's so freeing because she's not worrying about the dinging. They'll be there. Yes. You know, so much of what we think, I can remember a day, now this dates me, but I remember when the phone was attached to the wall. And when somebody needed you, they knocked on your door or they rang your phone. There was you weren't being, so I don't think any of us need to be on call 24/7. I don't really think anybody is that important or necessary. Maybe certain kinds of doctors.
Sure. Maybe.
But the rest of us, you know, it's kind of like nobody needs that stress.
No.
And there's plenty of time to go during the work week or whenever it is that we serve or work or give. But it's exhausting if you feel like some people have access to you. I don't think it's good for our souls.
No,
you know,
it's not at all.
Yeah.
And for us to practice that with others, but then to give grace to others too, because we're all so used to people contacting us 24 hours a day. And so sometimes when we reach out to someone, if we don't hear back right away, we need to remember, I'm going to give them the same grace that I would want someone to give to me. Yeah. And to be respectful of that. I remember that time, Melanie, like being able to leave my house and just get in my car and drive. And I just drove and listened to music. I wasn't multitasking and you could just be present. And you got home and you hit play on your answering machine.
And then you heard whoever needed you. It was a simpler day.
It was a beautiful time. But I think that you're right that we do teach others how to treat us.
Right. And you can change that. I'll give you a few. Like I take off Saturday at noon till Sunday morning church because I'm on social media a lot and I'm around people a lot and I do not get on anything. I'll answer a phone call like for my family, but I tell people I'm not on Saturday. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to do anything on Saturday. I'm going to be with my family, work in the yard, do something fun. It's just a break. After a certain time of night, about 7, I am not online. I am not answering anything. I'm not talking to anybody. And I tell people I'm not working at night. Yep. And they know that. And I think it's almost like you have to do it and then you have to tell everybody you're doing it.
Correct.
And once they learn,
then
hey,
they know.
You know, she doesn't do that at night. She'll be there first thing in the morning, early in the morning, but not at night. And what it does is it just kind of lets you breathe at night. And I think there's tools. We have do not disturb. We have a sleep thing. Even my phone will, even if we go out to dinner and we made a reservation on an app, the app will say, would you like to be on do not disturb while you're having dinner? We're legit. My phone will. And it's like, yes. And so even our phones know that we need some margin.
Yes.
And so use the tools. I tell people all the time, take advantage and just tell your people, whether it's your children or it's your parents or your friends or whoever, this is going to be the time that I spend on this. And so I won't be doing whatever.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I discovered last week that our phones will let us schedule a text message.
Yeah. There
Maybe
you go.
I just
There
learned
you
this.
go.
This might be new because many times you'll think of an idea,
Yeah.
and I was so guilty. I texted a girlfriend at 9:30 because you get the
Yeah.
best ideas in the shower.
Yeah.
And I thought after I sent it, that was a little bit out of line. That was way too late. But I thought, had I known I could schedule it, I could have written it out so I didn't forget and then send it in the morning during office hours. And so I thought to myself, again, Cherisse, practice the boundaries that you want. But it's interesting. And there are so many tools, you're right, that we can put in place to kind of help set us up for success, to allow our brains to rest. Because don't they even say we should shut down screens maybe 2-3 hours before bed?
Yeah. 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 And, I think we also work when we're fresh. I'm better in the mornings. And my kids laugh because I'm like, my kids are young adults. And I'm like, don't call me after 9. You're not going to get much wisdom or great advice. I'm too tired.
Yes.
But man, early in the morning, bring it. And they laugh. My daughter just laugh and go, man, you have a lot of ideas, Mom, early in the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's when I'm best. And I know it's when I'm going to give the best.
Me too.
And so, maybe that's part of it too, is learning that, there's better seasons and better moments and better times of the day.
Right. And when we are giving ourselves actual rest, we are better. We are more creative. Our brains can work better. Our bodies are restored. Yeah. And that can seem like such a small thing, but it makes such a big impact in every area of our life.
Yeah. Well, and some of it is kind of learning ourselves. I read about a lady, she was a homeschool mom with several kids, and she didn't answer the phone during the day. She was homeschooling and she was fixing supper, and she had a certain time of day. I can't remember. I want to say it was right after dinner, but she'd answer her phone calls or she'd answer her text messages. And she just taught her friends to know, I'm not being rude. I'm just going to do school during the day. And then when I have my time, I don't know, 7 to 8 at night, I'm going to answer you. And people, once they knew she wasn't being rude. That was she was just doing what was best for everybody.
Right.
Yeah. So some of it is just kind of clever planning and learning to kind of know your people and know yourself. And and you find this margin, you build these moments in, I every day from about 4 to 5 is kind of my time. And I like to sit outside, or I like to kind of just have no noise. And I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to do anything from 4 to 5. That's my time. But I'll tell you what it does is it's quiet and it just kind of refreshes my soul. It just gives me a minute to go before the next things, before dinner, before everything.
Just to sit.
Yeah.
We need that.
Yeah.
I had learned a couple of years ago, I got this Aura ring, and I didn't even know that you needed restoring.
Yeah.
And so I think I was so much more keen to it because it would show me how much rest I wasn't getting.
Oh yeah. Does it turn a certain color or something?
It just tracks. I don't know how it knows your body heat. So it will tell me how much sleep I've gotten, and it will tell me how much I don't restore throughout the day.
Really?
It will be like, you've had 0 restorative time. I'm like,
you need some restorative time.
Thank you. Or it'll tell me
Yeah.
if I have. And so that's really been one way that I've been keen to know, like, wow, I mean, I knew I pushed myself a little hard.
Yeah. That's good. It's another tool.
It is. It's so interesting. And so that's where I have learned what restores me, because maybe something I was doing, I thought, well, surely this is restorative. I love doing it, but it wasn't restoring my body.
Yeah.
But I've learned now, time with friends, doing this, sitting down, my soul is so restored.
Yeah. What does your ring do when you're, does it show when it says, oh, this is good?
I don't know. I can't even see it. And I love it too, because it doesn't read me my text messages. That's good. So I do love it. Even like I have had, I've been doing this Bible study with 17 to 20 7th grade girls. And I've shared that with friends, and they're like, does that not stress you out? And I'll think maybe, and I'll look at my ring and it'll say restored. Every single time.
And maybe that's what it is learning. Do you need quiet? Do you need people?
Right.
Do you need to be doing something where you're pouring into somebody else or giving? That's good.
That's a good point too, because oftentimes women can think, oh, I'm an introvert, or, oh, I'm an extrovert. So maybe this is what restores me, but that's not necessarily the case. Did you find that in your research?
Yeah, because sometimes some people love to serve. I have these friends, they get a kick out of it. And you can just tell, it's like, what makes you smile? What makes you happy when you finish? What makes you just think,
Yeah.
I love to teach and I love to speak. And after I get to encourage a group of women, especially women I speak to, I just feel like I could go run a marathon.
Me too.
I am pumped up.
Yes.
And so it's wondering what pumps you up, what excites you. And for some people, that's going to work out.
Yeah.
For some people, it's coffee with a friend. For some people, it's being all alone. Don't bother me.
We need that. Correct.
But there's also people who just really kind of want to be to themselves and they need some good time to restore. And we all do need some of that. But I think for a lot of people watching or listening, it might be good to figure out what kind of feeds your soul, what nourishes you, what makes you feel like, oh, yeah, that was awesome. And I think we know. I think we know when we've done something that just absolutely blesses us deep inside.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And different seasons, different things might restore us.
Yeah.
When you're in a season with littles, you might just need the alone time.
Yeah. That might be going to I used to spend a lot of time at the grocery by myself. Target. And walk through some aisles when those kids were little. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Many times I'll walk through Target and you'll see moms with or without newborns, just holding a cup of coffee and staring,
just going slowly down the aisles.
I remember just savoring that. Savoring that. Yeah. Or when you're by yourself, many times, people will think, you okay? And you're like, I am great. I am here by myself.
Yes.
Just looking.
Yeah. You're right. It kind of depends on the season of life. Yeah. But I think it's always remembering that you kind of got to check in. And it's almost like you and the Lord check in. Lord, what am I doing that's restoring my soul? How are you restoring my soul? What else could I add that would make my life sweeter and give me more margin and energy with other people? And is it a little more sleep? Is it a little less caffeine? Should I get out and take a walk? I've been trying to get out more, be outside, walk barefoot in the grass. I just went through this class at my church and we called ourselves crunchies. And evidently that's like some kind of term about you eat a lot of granola.
Right.
But anyway, I didn't know what that was, but a lot of what they talked about was how to add margin. And they said being outside, and there's something about walking through the walking barefoot in the grass and being in the sun and just a walk, not even counting your steps, just a walk is so good for us.
Yes.
And so I think for a lot of us, it's just letting ourselves figure out. And maybe that's the rest. It's not a self-care day we need. We just need to figure out what fills us back up. Our cups are running dry. How do we fill back up?
Right.
Yeah.
And learning how to do it daily versus, like you said, many times we'll think, I'll just wait. And then I'll have that self-care day.
Yeah.
But by then you're so depleted.
Yeah.
So what if we were able to learn how to do it every day?
Yeah.
How can I put these rhythms into my life so I can fill that cup up so I have something to pour into whoever God's given you to steward, right?
Yeah, because I think most women have depleted cups. We have dry cups and we give out so much. And so every day we've got to fill up. And I know for me, that's just starting my day every morning, looking up to heaven and saying, God, I need you.
Yes.
There is a God and I need him every morning. And then it's spending a little time in prayer and spending a little time opening my Bible and finding some truth. I told the group of ladies I spoke to this weekend, the reason we open our Bible is because God breathed those words into that Bible. And when we put our faces in there, it's like we're breathing in the very breath of God and it just refreshes us. There's something about time in the Word and time in prayer. And so those are all ways I start my day. I try to add a little quiet. I turn the radio off. There's something about driving where I'm going, quiet. You just get to think and process and ponder and work through some things. And so all those things can add just a little margin every day. They're not hard. They don't take a lot of time.
Yeah.
But those things can add a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's adding margin. But as you were saying that, it was making me think, again, like with this process of subtraction, you can be going for a walk and you're not having to count your steps or trying to track the activity, but you're just taking in the goodness, like breathing in the beauty that God has around us, slowing down your brain. And if you're not listening to a podcast or anything, you're just able to let your body and your soul settle into that space.
Oh, there's something about just letting ourselves think and ponder. There's a verse in Luke where it talks about Mary found out she was going to have baby Jesus. And it said she pondered these things in her heart. And I think a lot of us need to ponder a little longer and think a little more. And we just need time to sort of process and let things kind of ruminate, as my grandmother would say.
Yes.
And so you do that when you're taking a shower, when you're putting your makeup on, you can do it when you're driving. But something about a walk with no earbuds. Just walk.
Mm-hmm.
And be still, or sit outside and don't do anything.
Yes.
Just sit
Yes.
and enjoy and breathe. And it gives you a moment just to take it all in.
Mm-hmm. And even some of the mundane tasks that we all have to do every day, that oftentimes we can be a little frustrated. Like, man, there's dishes to do or there's laundry to do. There is a lot of beauty in that too. And that's me coming a long way in growth, just to be able to say that, because for a while I thought, this is frustrating. This is not productive. I could be doing something much more productive. But today I was folding laundry and I thought, with nothing, I listen to a book and I just turned it off for a bit. And I just thought, this is a beautiful time to let my mind settle and I thought I could pray again, trying to be productive. And then I caught myself just saying, Lord, let me just be quiet and let me just listen. Why is that so hard for me to just be quiet and listen to what you have for me?
And it is hard, but it's biblical. I mean, there's a lot of verses that talk about be still and know that I'm God. Stand still and watch the salvation of the Lord. Just live a quiet life. It talks about, I believe in Timothy, God encourages us to have some stillness and some quiet. And I think Jesus withdrew by himself to pray, but also for the quiet. Those disciples were probably driving him crazy. But I think we all need a lot more quiet. I have a good friend that's a little ahead of me in life, and she said that she has learned to appreciate the quiet and how much good it does for us. And so for somebody listening, maybe you just need to give yourself some quiet time. You need some time out every day, and you need to figure out where that's going to be. And don't be multitasking and trying to listen to every podcast and every book on tape or whatever. Try some quiet and see if that doesn't just sort of restore your soul.
Right. Maybe over this month of April, like asking themselves if there's a space in their day when normally they would hit play on anything. A podcast.
A good thing. It can be a really good thing.
Right. Even a Netflix show or something. What if instead we would, instead of hitting play, we hit pause. And we just allow for the silence. And we invite God into that space and say, Lord, I'm going to choose to not fill this space. I'm going to give some margin. And I'm going to listen.
And it's amazing the ideas you'll come up with. And it's almost like prayer, but it's listening prayer. And it's like God just gives you these ideas and all of a sudden you have a solution to a problem, or you think of someone you need to call that you hadn't thought about in a while. And when you do, you just know God sent you to that person. It's amazing how he can speak into the quietness. And so I do think listening is praying. It's just a different kind of praying. And so the quiet kind of gives us a chance to just take it all in and not be so busy and so stressed out. So so that's been one of the things I've learned. And it's amazing the ideas that I have and the creativity. I end up writing things down, or I'll make a quick note and then I'll continue the quiet and turn the music off and turn the noise off. And I love it. And I want more of it. I do think the more you get, the more you want. So
I know. I love that we serve a God that speaks to us in the quiet, but he also can speak to us in the chaos.
Yes, he can.
I am so grateful.
He can speak anytime.
I know. I'm so grateful that he just meets us where we are. I remember a friend sharing with me when my boys were babies, because I thought, I just can't. Like, I so desire this time with you, Lord, and I don't have time. I'm changing diapers. I was in the thick of it. And she reminded me, she said, Cherisse, do you remember that Jesus went to the women? The Lord met the women wherever they were, washing clothes, washing dishes, feeding babies. And that was such an encouragement, because as a young mom, I was feeling like, I just am not doing anything right. I am exhausted. And that was a sweet comfort.
That's good.
It doesn't matter where we are, that he meets us.
That's a great word.
And I think we all need that reminder, no matter what season we're in, that he really does meet us where we are. And when we just show up to be in his presence, that he's there.
You're right.
Waiting for us. I actually have all these questions I'd wanted to ask Melanie, but we're just talking about the great things. So I'm loving it. I would love, as we're speaking of rest too, let's talk about maybe any misconceived notions that we have in our head, especially for me too. You mentioned it earlier, so I'd love to dig into that a little bit more. That rest is sacred.
Yeah.
that Jesus modeled that for us. Like you just said, he worked hard and ministered to so many. He was mentoring the disciples, but then he did go off on his own. So as you were researching for the devotional, what did you find out about rest being sacred?
Well, it's kind of like what my favorite illustration is. I go back to when my brother and I were teenagers. We had these beanbag chairs in our playroom, and they were bright yellow and bright green. And they had real little plastic beans inside, and kind of this, I don't know, they were sewn together by some kind of cord. And we pushed so hard on those things, they did start to come apart, and the beans would spill out. And they get little rips in them. Mm-hmm. And so my mother would, I don't know, staple them or sew them back together. And we love those chairs. But I realized people are like that too. Mm-hmm. And we push and we get stepped on, and we're, sat on, and we get little tears. And all of a sudden the beans are spilling out, and our lives are spilling out in a way we don't want. Mm-hmm. And I realized that what makes us whole is to have enough rest and enough time apart and enough filling back up, because you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give from a dry cup. You have nothing to offer if you're worn out. No. And we've all been there. We've all had those seasons. Yes. But I think what I'm learning is that God wants us to pour from a full cup. Yeah. And I want to give from the overflow. I want my life to be so full that when people bump into me or sit on me or squash me, the good comes out, not the beans.
It spills onto them.
It spills onto them. And I believe that that's the sacred part, is that God says, come to me, and he promises that he will fill us back up, and he will give us rest, and that his yoke is easy and his burden is light. But I do think I am a firstborn, people-pleasing, high achiever, 3 on the Enneagram. How high would you like the bar to go? And I get it. It's so easy to push hard.
Yes.
But that has never accomplished anything. I don't think the striving leads to anything. It's the opposite. It's one of those Bible principles where you're like, this is the opposite of what you think it'd be. We actually, by spending time quiet in his presence and before him and being emptied of ourselves and filled up with him, we have something to give.
Yes.
And it's not me coming up with it. It's him in me.
Right.
But it's hard to get there, because I could do it. I can do it. But I want him to do it with me. I just want to be the vessel. And so I guess the sacred part is that we come to him, we surrender, we say, okay. And then we let him fill us up. And then he uses us. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the rest is hard, though, to get to that place where it's not all us and we let it be him is a challenge.
I love that visual of filling up so that when we get bumped, that we spill out onto others.
Yeah.
But what we're spilling is his goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because we've all been full of other things. And then when something bumps us,
it's not pretty. Those little beanbag chairs, beans are spilling out all over the place. Yeah.
It's a beautiful visual.
Well, and we've all encountered that. I mean, when you've seen it in other people, you feel it. Yeah. When you've been around someone and you're like, that person's different. They've been with Jesus. There's something about them. When you get the love or the grace, or they show you kindness when you don't deserve it, or they just love you in a way that's unexpected, then you go, oh. And so we've all experienced it. We've all had people treat us with more kindness than we deserve.
Yes.
Yeah. And show us the love of God through their actions. And so I guess it's more of a thing of, we come to him and we find his rest, and then we actually have something to give to other people. And so but it's a daily thing. I got to go fill up every day. Just like I have to have my cup of coffee in the morning, I need to have my filling up time too.
That's true.
Yeah.
And don't we all remember it forever? We can all write this moment when we think about someone who's shown us kindness and grace when we didn't deserve it. It will stick with you for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I ran into a friend at the grocery store the other day. She was right behind me, and I turned around, and it was if time had stood still. I hadn't seen her in about 7 or 8 years. And I drove home full of joy. Yeah. And I texted her and I said, you will never know the kindness that you showed to my husband and I when we were newlyweds has stuck with me forever.
Yeah.
Because she's just simply, the Lord's just using her joy and magnifying it. And even still to this day.
Isn't it sweet? I had a lady that for 15 years we prayed together. She was a little ahead of me age-wise, and I would go to her house for coffee. And when she'd open her little door, no matter how I looked, she'd go, "Oh, you look beautiful today." And she'd hug me, and we would share prayer requests and have coffee and pray for each other. And she just poured into my life, precious lady. And she just loved Jesus, and I knew she'd been with him. And when I came away from being with her, I felt like I just had the fragrance of Jesus on me because I'd been with her. And she had been with him. And I want to be that way. I want there to be something fragrant that comes off of me onto other people because I've been with him. Yeah.
That makes me think of your book. Not that I've read it yet, but the one about help. I need friends.
Yeah.
And I think, and speak into that a little bit more, as we're all wanting this for ourselves. And I love even what you shared about that she was a little bit more ahead of you in life.
Yeah.
Could that be maybe a challenge to all of us? Like, who could we reach down to that's maybe in a different season than us? Maybe she's just a couple years below or whatnot, and just say, pull her next to you and say, let's learn to rest together. And how can we encourage one another? How can we pray for one another through this season? How have you seen that impact your life, really mentoring someone else or doing life besides someone?
Sure. Oh, so many fun examples. But, my prayer has been, a friend of mine encouraged me years ago. She said, you need a Paul, a Barnabas, and a Timothy. And I pray for those, but you need some women ahead of you who can inspire you and mentor you. You need some Barnabas kind of folks who are encouragers that are about your same stage of life. And then you need to pour into. And so for me, it's just been being available and willing and just asking good questions and looking people in the eye and how are you? And so my favorite question usually is, well, how can I pray for you? And what's going on in your life? And what's God doing in your life? And there's just something sweet about it. I ran into, there's a lady that used to she did Young Life, and I think she did Bible Study Fellowship, but she's going to be with the Lord, but she made it to 96. And I met her about 2 years ago. I'd never met her before. I just knew her by reputation. And she looked across the table from me. We're having lunch, 94. And she said, well, what books are you reading right now? And she just began to ask me questions. And I thought, this is a woman who's still interested in discipling and mentoring younger women and encouraging women younger than her in our faith. And so I love that. And I want to be that kind of woman. I do think it's just a little interest goes a long way. Just hey, what's going on in your life and what's happening? And so that is always my prayer. But you kind of got to be willing, because that means you can't sit always and talk to your best friends. You can't always go to the people you're most comfortable with. And when I meet an older lady that I think is kind of cool, I'll sometimes saddle up next to them and say, can we go have coffee? And it's okay to do that.
Yes.
And I've had girls do that with me, and I love it. So there's no rules, but I do think there's something about being open and wanting it and being teachable. And I love to be around that precious lady, to be around her, 94 years old, and walking with the Lord all these years and leading other people. So that's sweet. So I don't know if that answers the question exactly, but there's something about it not being a program or programmed, but just to say, hey, that girl, something cool. And even a younger woman, what are you doing in your life? You look like you kind of got it going on, or I love how you are with your husband or your kids, or tell me a little bit about you. And it just is amazing. I have a friend that says, people want to know, are you for real? Is your God for real? And do you care about me? And I think she's right on people around us. And so in my own life, I've been praying for some new younger women. We're in a newer church, and there's not a lot of older women in my church. I am the older woman. I am one of the older women, but there's a lot of younger people. And so it's been fun because God started putting these people in my path over and over, the same ones. And I'm like, oh, there may be one. Yeah. And so I'm just trying to be kind and friendly and see what God does. Yeah. So there's something about being open, don't you think?
Yes.
And wanting to make those connections. Because I think most women love having older friends and same age friends and younger friends. I think we all really love to have the generations.
We need it.
Yeah, we need it, don't we?
Need it.
Yeah.
Right. I always think about, if I was only friends with women in my season, we're kind of all in the trench together. We need friends that say, you can do this. You can do this.
Yeah. And to talk to somebody who's already gone through what you've gone through, it'll say, he got it. And that's what my sweet little friend that I prayed with for 15 years did. She said, you're going to make it, or this is going to be okay, or I was there. And it's amazing how much that encourages you to have someone tell you, yeah, it's hard, but you're going to make it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then to let
really,
us be that for
Yeah.
those women who are maybe maybe in a different season, that we're ahead of them. It's like we're constantly like the older women are filling us up, and then we're full, and then we're pouring that out. And so it just keeps going around.
Well, and
and
it's so rewarding. I will tell you, because I've spent time with a lot of younger women, and it's so fun. And it's not like you have to have all this training. A lot of it is just, do you care? And will you listen, and will you pray for them? And so sometimes we don't want to be the older woman, but we are to somebody. All of us are. True. And it doesn't take a whole lot to pour into somebody's life.
No.
So, yeah.
What were the 3 questions you said that women want to know?
Are you for real? Is your God for real? And do you care about me? Aren't those good?
Yes.
That's my friend Ellen Olford at Central. And she said that's what new people and people coming into the church and want to know. And I think that's probably true of all of us. So, yeah.
And in our socially connected world, that let us all remember that you can reach out. You know, we can reach out to people on social media and get to know them better, or reach out. We are designed relationally. God made us that way. And being in the space of someone really just fuels our hearts so very much.
Well, and I would say if you're a younger woman, I'm 61, so I'll give you, but if you're younger than me and you came to me and said, hey, could we hang out? I would love to talk to you about this or whatever. I've never said no. I wouldn't say no. And I think most older women, my kids are raised, they're out of our home. We're empty nesters. It's a sweet place to be, but it's also kind of fun to adopt some daughters.
Yes.
And so I love having younger women in my life, and it adds this energy. I love their energy and their youth. And so it makes my life more fun, but don't be afraid to ask, because I think if you find a woman and you're like, I like her marriage. I like the way she is with her kids. She seems to have such joy, or I like her laugh, get around her. Ask to have coffee, ask her to go to lunch, and just start the relationship and see if it's somebody you want to keep hanging out with. And if you see a younger woman and you say, something good is going on in that girl's life, I want to know what's going on. There's a young woman in my church, and I would put her, I guess she's about 21 or 22. And I've just noticed she's really mature, and she's got this hunger for the Lord. And I've just started stopping and talking to her and I see her a lot. And so I just check in on her more. And I've noticed she's responding by me just being extra kind. And so it didn't take a whole lot. No.
Just notice.
Yeah. Noticing
women. Yeah. Noticing women, being curious, and then being available.
Yeah.
One of my good friends last week, she also is in that season where she's raised all of hers, and I just needed to process. I needed to ponder and process and pray. And she said, Cherisse, God has really given me the gift and the ministry of presence. She said, and being available. I just can make myself available. And she listened for 3 hours or 2 hours. We were on the phone. And I thought, what a gift.
Isn't that a gift? Yeah, it is.
And that was what I needed the most.
Yeah. And see, I'm kind of in that season too. And it's nice to be available to my kids, to my parents who need more care, to my brother who's kind of been through a hard season, to friends, to a church, to my husband, to his work and ministry. And it's really sweet. It's not everybody's season, but it's my season. And so it's really, I love when somebody says, hey, can we talk? I'd like to pick your brain.
And it's such a gift.
And it's like, sure.
Yes.
Yeah. I have time. So it's kind of fun.
It is.
How God uses different seasons in people's lives. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I have 2 last questions for you. I always love to ask all of my guests that are here, if you could go back and give your 10-year-old self some advice, especially on the topic of rest, which I bet at 10, we were probably good at playing in rest. But the reason why I love that 10-year-old self question is because I really feel like at 10, we're just walking who God has made us to be.
Yeah.
We're not trying to impress anyone or put on anything. Yeah. What would you tell your 10-year-old self?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think I would tell my 10-year-old self, have a lot more fun, relax. You're not going to be perfect. You're not going to do everything right. Enjoy your life a lot more, and don't be so hard on yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Walk in that.
Yeah.
And then what closing words would you have for all of us as we're listening today, because we want to learn how to rest more.
Yeah.
And we really want to dig into that. What encouragement would you send us off with?
I was thinking about the verse today. I prayer walk through my house in the mornings, and I have these little cards that I use, and they have scriptures on them, and then I have people's names on them. And I was praying this one particular verse, and I was thinking about the words of it, and it said that He will keep us in perfect peace when we keep our minds fixed on Him. And so one of my prayers is that I'll more and more look up, and that would be my encouragement. It's Snoopy, the great wise philosopher. Keep looking up. That's the secret of life. And so I would say, just keep looking to heaven and keep seeking the Lord and keep coming to Him, because He's the one that gives rest.
Thank you. So beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you for being here.
Yes,
I'm
thank you.
so excited
Thank
to
you.
connect you to
Thank
all
you.
of my friends that are listening. I know we are all going to be thrilled to walk through Just Rest over the next 90 days, especially as we're in spring and then summer's
It's
coming.
good time to rest.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
this. Thank you for just your obedience in writing this book.
Well, thank you.
I'm so
Thank you.
grateful.
I love it. And I pray it'll be an encouragement. And thank you for letting me come join you today.
You're welcome.
This has been good.
And we'll connect everyone to you in the show notes. We'll have a link to your book, and they can find you guys. Yeah, and they can be connected to you and learn how to rest.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie. Thank you for joining me on this journey of restoration and renewal. Remember, you can stay connected with me between episodes by following me on Instagram. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to ensure you never miss an episode. And if you found value in our conversation today, I'd truly appreciate it if you leave a review on your favorite podcast platform or share the show with a friend who might benefit from these rhythms. Until next time, may you find peace in knowing that you can show up every day simply as you are. And that is enough. Take care.